Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back on I'm Not Gonna Hold You, man. It's time for our guest segment of the week, man. Bringing in today my guest, my homie, a two-time guest on this show, my homie Shaun Davis from ESPN 1000 in Chicago, man. Got a whole bunch of other things going on. You got a Notre Dame podcast. Don't want to mess up the name. What's going on, bro? Let them know I can get in tune with you and everything you got going on.
As always, on all networks at SD2 Mics, and as formerly ESPN 1000.
Formerly, okay.
Formerly, strictly Irish Breakdown with Sports Illustrated.
Okay,
Lucky
big
Lefty
moves.
Podcast, the Lucky Lefty Podcast Network on YouTube.
Okay, definitely. Get in tune with that, man. We'll get all your Notre Dame information from him, man. But let's talk some Chicago sports, man. There's a lot of things going on in the world of sports, and when I mean Chicago sports, I mean everything but the Cubs, because they don't even register in my mind when I think about Chicago sports. It is the Bears, the Bulls, and the White Sox. But let's start off first with the team that's actually playing right now, if you want to even call it that, the Chicago Bulls, man. Been a very underwhelming post All-Star break for the Bulls, to say the least. I think we're I think we won like what 7 games since the break, if that. What's your opinion on everything going on with the Bulls? You know, they're like really 2 games up, like 2 games up on Toronto because the tiebreaker, like 2.5 on Cleveland because of the tiebreaker. What's your opinion on what they've been doing? Are Bulls fans in the right to be upset? And where do you think where this team is going to go?
Well, man, of course you can be upset based upon the way everything was built up, with them being the number 1 seed for about, 40% of the season?
Yeah.
And then, they just don't have the roster to sustain the injuries that they sustained at key positions with key players going into the All-Star break. And they put together a hell of an effort just to make it to the All-Star break as the number 1 seed in the East. But big picture, knowing where we were 2 years ago, and you were here for that All-Star break here in Chicago,
Yeah.
like where we were at that moment, which was a great weekend for the NBA, and where we are now as a team and as an organization, you have to be appreciative for what Arturis and Mark Eversley have done, pretty much retooling this entire roster on the run. And now
Yeah.
it's just a matter of finding out which pieces will take us to that next level. Now we're a top 4, top 5 team in the East. To go from being out of the playoffs to top 4, top 5 in the East, that's an accomplishment. Big picture, fan base should be feeling pretty good. But in the short term, based upon where we were for the majority of the season, or a pretty good percentage of the season, I understand why Bulls fans are feeling kind of melancholy right now about the way things are looking. But we knew coming into the season that defense would be a problem.
Right.
We knew that. And
Yeah.
it was just the way they were flowing offensively early made you feel like, oh man, maybe they have a shot to get to the second round of the playoffs, the Eastern Conference semifinals, and maybe sneak into the Eastern Conference finals like the Hawks did last year. But unfortunately, injuries probably won't allow that to happen. But I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy right now with where the Bulls are sitting.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it too. Like I've been saying on Twitter and on my Third Pick podcast with my homie Mariano. I feel like every week we be trying to talk Bulls fans off the ledge. Like, so they're right where I thought they would be preseason. Like I said, anywhere between 45 to 48 wins. I said 48, 5th seed, and probably be a first round exit. I said the only way this season would be a disappointment is if they were like a play-in team. Now, also, I didn't expect the East to be as good as it is now when it
Right.
came when the season started. So I think play-in is not, of course, making a play-in will definitely be not what you would want, but it's not as bad as it looks just because how damn competitive the East is. But when you were saying it's like as far as like I guess what they've set from the beginning of the season is disappointing from that aspect because it's like we can't get that type of playback. And I think it's a mix of injuries. And I know a lot of Bulls fans don't want to hear that, but this is players who've been out for 2 months. And when you don't have a superstar on your team, like I've been saying, you got to overcompensate in other areas. And it's going to take a while. It's been taking a while for Caruso to get back into where he's been. Well, Lonzo's probably not coming back. And I think that's also a big reason why the offense looks so discombobulated, because you don't have a guy who's setting you up. And that also helps on the defensive end. And with Patrick Williams, I think we don't really know what we have in him yet. He's the big mystery because he hasn't really been playing his first 2 years in the season. So I'm with you. Like, when you zoom out, bigger picture, we should be happy. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, as far as where we were from 2 years ago, even a year ago. You know what I'm saying? Where this team is. And you also got to consider first year where this team is actually playing winning basketball. This is the first time that Vooch and Zach LaVine have really been playing winning basketball. I even think some of them Orlando teams were under 500, if I'm not mistaken, when they made the
Yeah.
playoffs. So
Yeah.
this is like the first time they really playing over 500 basketball, and you got to lose for you win. So anything can happen. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they did win a first round series. Now, I'm not picking them against anybody because I'm gonna take away my fan hat off it. But I think it's one of those things where you have to temper those expectations. Just get into the playoffs, see what happens, and then let AK and Mark handle the roster after this. Now, one more Bulls question before we move on. What do you see as far as being the number one thing that no matter what happens in the playoffs that the Bulls do have to change to be more competitive next year to get closer to a championship?
They need physicality. They need physicality. Fully healthy, they're deep. And think about it. No one thought a second round pick would come in and develop and contribute the way Io DeSumo has.
Yeah,
So you go into the offseason with him, gaining more confidence, going into his second year, being a more viable option offensively, more than likely off the bench next year. Lonzo coming back, Patrick Williams, if he takes a step forward, we're still waiting for him to take
yeah,
that step forward. But you need to get physical. You need to get some rim protection, and you need a backup, a viable backup for Vooch. Not so much to give him rest, but just for certain matchups. Like, you know
yeah,
what, Vooch, go over there. If you don't want to play tonight, go ahead and go sit down. So we don't constantly have to go small. It's like Billy
yeah,
Donovan, to counter physical teams, constantly has to go small so we can try to outscore teams. And
yep,
you want to be able to give yourself multiple ways to win games. That's what makes teams like Phoenix and Milwaukee so dominant, man. They can win in multiple ways. They can win without Brook Lopez on the floor. They can put Brook Lopez on the floor with Giannis and win and have that size and physicality. If he's not healthy, Bobby Portis can come in and still be finesse, hit threes, mid-range game, but still can be a physical presence, still can rebound. And you need that versatility in the NBA. So Mark Eversley and Arturis, definitely they're going to have to find some players that fit that mold, fit that style, to give the team more diversity and more ways to win games. And that's going to take a lot off of Zach and DeMar in the long
yeah.
run.
Yeah, and I do think even like with Zach and Vooch, Zach. I think a lot of people gotta understand Zach is his D is cooked. Like even in the win last night against Washington, what do you have? What, like 5 or 6 shot attempts? Like there was
Yeah,
there was many possessions where you could tell like he didn't even shoot a shot until like mid third quarter. So
right.
you got to see that, and I commend Zach for playing through it, especially on a contract year. But like you said, they have to be deep, have to be more physical. And I feel like Vooch is not exempt from criticism. He's a very frustrating player to watch a lot of times, but at the same time, he out there by his damn self. Like you said, he
Yeah,
doesn't have a reliable backup
right.
who's out there on the front line with him. He's trying to rebound and defend. And actually, for what it's worth, I thought Vooch has been a pretty okay defender for what I thought Vooch was. So it's just all about surrounding these guys to try to put them in a better position to win. So I do agree with that. It's about matchups. Like people and Billy should get a little bit of blame too, but how many more rotations, how many more things you want to run with? It's all also comes down to what roster you got, man. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree on that. Let's go to the team that plays on Lakefront, the Chicago Bears, man. Right now we're in the first off season of the Ryan Poles era. Now, there's a lot of Bears fans out there, a lot of people who tweet us on 79th and Howlers, a lot of people who leave voicemails. And by the time you listen to this, we should have a free agency update pod available right now. Um, what's your opinion on Poles' approach? This offseason, kind of like wait and see, with hasn't been anything really splashy. He's gotten rid of Khalil Mack and a lot of those Pace Nagy era guys. What's your opinion on Poles' process? And do you think that Bears fans need to, just chill out and let him work for a little bit?
Let him work, but I'm looking forward to seeing what his overall vision for this team is. And let me use the Baltimore Ravens as an example, who
Okay.
have an athletic quarterback that came in young and they needed to develop. Well, what they put around him was a really good defense and a very physical offensive line in the run game. And that is what my hope is for the Chicago Bears. Like, yes, you have a very talented young quarterback with a great arm, but don't put the weight of the world on him. Allow him to develop and allow him to develop while he's winning games so that he's creating good habits and he's learning how to win. That comes with giving him an offensive line. You have two pretty good running backs already set in
Yeah,
place. So now you have to go out. Do you go get veteran wide receivers? Because there will in camp you see cuts, see veteran wide receivers let loose. So you get him a veteran wide receiver, or do you allow yourself to just get a couple of wide receivers in the draft, second, third round, bring them in, and then let him develop with them? That's a lot of pressure to allow a young quarterback to only have young wide receivers to develop at the same time. So I'm interested in seeing how the vision of his roster plays out. You definitely give him time. Heck, we gave Ryan Pace two,
way
three
more
more.
time.
Oh, we gave him plenty of time. And even when we saw he made mistakes, we still said, you know what, let's give him another shot. So I remember the first time you and your brother walked into the studios with me and JP, you were at a point where you were almost fed up with Ryan Pace then.
Oh, I wasn't almost. I was fed up with Ryan Pace. We traded Brandon Marshall. He got on my bad side very early.
Right, right.
Very early.
You might as well give Poles an
Yeah,
opportunity to see the vision for the team. The Bears need to be a physical team around Justin Fields. Just plain
yeah.
and simple. Defensive front, offensive front, be physical, be dominant, and then build around that. And everything should be fine. I think they still, with the roster, if he makes the right moves, they still have an opportunity playing in the NFC North to go ahead and win 8 to 9 games. Just currently as they sit.
Yeah, and even if you look at the schedule, I know they put out that we're still waiting for the exact dates of the schedule, but
Right.
there's a lot of mediocre quarterbacks they playing this year. Like,
Absolutely.
of course, you got to see Rodgers twice a year, which is he's Rodgers. You see Josh Allen, and I think there's one other really good quarterback you face. But besides that, you playing a lot of bums. The
A
NFC
lot
is
of
really a
bums.
JV league right now. So I'm with you. Like, I think just Bears fans would. I feel like where a lot of the uneasiness comes from is that what you brought up with Ryan Pace and all the opportunities you gave him. Ryan Pace made a lot of splashy moves. Now these moves didn't really work in a long scheme of things, long term things, but he spent the money, and so I think Bears fans a little taken aback when they see a guy who's doesn't want to give Christian Kirk $18 million a year, which I love. I'm glad that you did spend that much money on a guy like that. And so
Right.
I feel like like it's a very important year for Justin Fields. Like there's tiers to seeing what kind of quarterback you have, and I feel like the Cincinnati Bengals, the Chargers, they're at that level where we got our guy. I think the Bears on the I hope we got our guy level, and then by the end of this year, you got to know whether or not this is gonna work. Now, I'm not saying that Justin's got to be superstar by the end of this year, but he's got to take a little bit of leap because even if you look at today's NFL, these players I think we're entering the era of players not going to be with teams for their whole careers. By the time Justin rookie contract come up, he could be like, "Yo, I really don't like this situation. Trade me." You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they have to build
Right.
that up and try to give him the best possible situation, even early right now.
And
So
my
that's
question a lot of times I vacillate back and forth. Like, who's more important right now, year
yeah,
1 and 2, Eberflus or Opposed? And I'm like, man, development needed with a lot of young talent on the roster. The coaching staff is really, really important for the
yes,
immediate. But
hmm
if you go big picture, of course, Ryan Poles holds more weight with the decision he makes because you have to be able to marry the splash moves, like you said, with the long term plans. Like
yeah.
Khalil Mack was a perfect splash move, right? Perfect splash move. But if you had married that with Deshaun Watson,
Or
now
Patrick Mahomes.
we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Yeah,
We wouldn't be
exactly.
talking about this. So Ryan Poles is going to have to do the same thing at some point down the road, possibly in a year or two. He's going to have to marry that splash move with the picks he's made in the draft and development of the young players. And ultimately, that would speed up the process for the Bears to go ahead and be a title contender.
And the Bears have the most cap space coming in 2023. Even though the NFL
Right.
salary cap is a myth, they will have the most cap space next year. And I always say that's why I didn't care about Aaron Rodgers coming back to the division. Let's lay low and build now. When he's
Mm-hmm.
old and he's 38 years old. He only
Yeah.
probably got like 2 years left. I don't think he's playing that whole contract. Then that's when you pounce. So that's why that's what I'm with you with. I feel like Poles is more important than Eberflus. Not that Eberflus don't have to be good because he does, but coaches can always be replaced. If you don't have a good front office,
Yeah.
you ain't got nothing. So let's get to
Yeah.
our last topic.
I almost bought a F them picks T-shirt when I was in LA. Like, I love that.
The
I just love
Leslie,
that
yeah.
mindset.
I
Like,
love
okay,
every team in LA not named the Los Angeles Lakers mindset when it comes to building teams. Look at the Dodgers, which is a perfect segue into our next topic, the anti-Dodgers, which is our Chicago White Sox. Coming to this season, I feel like this is the real second year of the window because I really don't count the 2020 condensed season. That was 60 damn games. You missed
right.
102 games in that season. So this is really the second year of the White Sox window. Of course, last year you were on my season recap pod, and we named all. I actually went back and listened to a couple days ago before we recorded the latest episode, and like all our complaints about what needed to be fixed over the offseason. And as we sit here, approximately about 8 days away from opening day, nothing
Right.
has really changed. Uh, what's your opinion on Rick Hahn's offseason? I know White Sox fans are irate, especially after that quote that Tony said, like, you want us to get an outside outfielder, you're not a real White Sox fan and you don't believe in this team, which is bullshit. What do you feel about Hans winter and what exactly you expect from this team this season?
Well, I know a lot of White Sox fans might be like, man, whatever. But just looking at the moves that have been made and what was out there, Castellanos, Conforto still hasn't
Still
been
out there.
signed,
Yeah.
still out there. But if you look at defensive metrics, which I think the White Sox were looking at, because that's something that they steadily want to improve upon, especially going into the playoffs, because they feel like pitching and defense was the big difference in that series with the Astros, and they felt like it didn't keep them in games long enough for that offense to create opportunities to be able to go and put some pressure on the Astros. So with that in mind, they're looking for a right fielder, and I think I heard earlier today, as a matter of fact, Jesse Rogers actually reported that a lot of GMs are saying that there will be a flurry of moves in April
Mm.
because of the way things played out.
Because it's
You'll
not
see
like a
a lot.
traditional offseason. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a non-traditional offseason, so you're going to see flurries April and May, way before the trade deadline. And with that, the White Sox, they're just patiently trying to wait for the market to break and see what they can get in the trade market. They got the Hosley kid from the Philadelphia Phillies the other day, left-handed kid. He's, at this point in time, he is what he is. They're going to depend on their youngsters. I don't like seeing Andrew Vaughn getting hit pointers because he doesn't know how to dive in right field.
Right,
I, I,
exactly.
I was cool with him playing left field,
But
but
right
right
field's
field is
way
a
more.
totally
You
different
have to be
beast.
way more athletic to play right.
Absolutely. You have to be way more athletic, more ground to cover. And then there's really nothing on the horizon coming from their farm system.
Yeah,
Anybody that's going to play that position is probably another full year away, or maybe like a September call up to make true
yeah.
impact. So Rick Hahn and his situation, he didn't want to jump out the window and overpay. He didn't want to go get Castellanos because Castellanos is not good
Castellanos is a
defensively.
glorified DH. He can't field
Yeah,
for shit.
absolutely. So they're trying to wait to pounce on the perfect situation, and that
Yeah,
might bite them in the butt because the perfect situation might not come along. But also, what they're betting on, look, this is a team, 93 games, and basically pulled 93 games out the
off,
anus.
off, off punting a lot of games. We
Man,
saw them Sunday afternoon
the Sunday
lineups, and
afternoon,
Tony was
absolutely.
throwing out of there. Yeah,
Absolutely. So if they stay healthy and everyone pretty much plays to form, and now your young pitchers take a step forward, I expect Cease to be better because Cease was better last year than he was the previous year. So
yeah.
if he makes an increment increase in his performance, and Michael Kopech can be a double-digit winner, now you're cooking with grease. You still have Ronaldo as your sixth starter. and I think things can work out well. This team is talented. Twins getting Correa. They're still the most
They
talented
still,
roster in the
yeah,
league.
they still can't pitch. Yeah, the Twins still can't pitch.
No,
Yeah, that's why I'm not really worried about the Twins. And like you said,
yeah,
like this team won 93 games off basically. There was a lot of things that went wrong last year. They punted a
a
lot of
lot.
games. You had Eloy and Luis missed 3 months. Yaz missed like 2.5 months. TA was on the IL a lot. So I said that I got this team now. I said I won't be happy with anything less than a World Series appearance. I think this team is going to win about 95 games and they're going to get into the ALCS and lose to somebody. What do you got? Where you got this team finishing? Like, give me a game prediction and where they ultimately ended up finishing for this season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Eloy and Luis have monster years. I think this is like the scary year where that combination like just dominates pitching staffs in the American League. And I think Luis Robert ends up being like top 3 in the AL MVP vote when it's all said and done. I really do. I think Jose has a renaissance year. Jose, even though he had over 100 RBIs, Jose, the first half of the season left, he struggled mightily with
Oh
men
yeah,
and
he
running
was, he
scoring
was god
position
awful first
early
half
on.
of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So now, just the comfort, them being comfortable and knowing who they are as a squad, I feel like they walk onto the field each and every day because they've done it with even more confidence. Not just having confidence in their talent, but confidence in knowing that they know how to win baseball games now. And I
yeah,
don't think Tony La Russa punts as much as he did last year now, right? Because now he has faith in those guys that I can
right.
trust that they'll tell me and be honest when they need a day off. So we're going after it. I think they're going to go after it. I think they're going to try and get that number 1 seed in the American League playoffs because they understand now how important home field advantage is, especially in
One, I think
games
they had
1
the
and
best
2.
record at home last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Absolutely. So now I
yeah,
think they're in a place where they're going to go for it. I expect Rick Hahn to be aggressive in season when he sees that deal that he thinks makes them a better team. And then ultimately, I see them. I'm going to put them in a World Series. I really am.
mm.
And that's man. I'm going to hang that
I
hope
mean,
on Rick
it's not a
Hahn
hot
making
take.
the
I
right
mean,
move.
the American League, there's not really a dominant team in there. There's no Dodgers in the AL that is just like, oh,
No,
this team just is just dominant front to back. I know everybody's gassed up Toronto, but they didn't even make the damn playoffs last year. So baby
right.
step.
They're going to have to prove it to me
Yeah,
in that division, and they still have to get out of that division against the Red Sox and the Yankees.
and the
I will
Yankees,
say
yeah,
this: the youngster, I'm hearing a lot of good things about the youngster that's coming in to replace Correa. And that lineup, even with Correa out,
still
is
good.
still monster. And
Yeah,
they have Verlander coming back. So the Astros will be heard from. The NL West is going to be very interesting because Seattle came on like
Seattle,
gangbusters in
yeah,
the second half.
yeah,
And Oakland just always finds a way. Like, even though they traded Olsen, they always find a way to replace guys that they give up. Farm system is always really good, and they pitch and they play really good defense. Heck, they lost the entire right side of their infield. Harrison is here with the White Sox. Olsen's
yeah.
in Atlanta with the Braves. So we'll see.
Definitely, it's definitely gonna be interesting season, man. Looking forward to starting next week, man. And it's always good to talk to you, bro. Let them know where they can follow you and
Yeah,
everything you got going on.
man. As always, Instagram, Twitter at SD2 Mics. I Sports Illustrated Irish Breakdown. Matter of fact, I'm going down there this weekend to cover practice. Just got back from covering the pro day and the open practice. I'm the recruiting analyst, so I spend most of my days talking to teenagers. Man, that's all I do. It's
God bless.
crazy, man, because they hate talk on the phone. All they want to do is text and hit you in the DM or hit you in the inbox, and I'm like, man, can you call me? I want to talk to you. I have a piece. I have a deadline. But that's the generation we live in, man.
Yeah.
If I did the interview on TikTok, they probably would be more comfortable with it.
Exactly.
Straight up,
Exactly, man.
straight up. But yeah,
But
it's a blessing. I always wanted to get into college football. It was a leap of faith, leaving in the comfortable surroundings of ESPN. But it's been a blessing, and I definitely have enjoyed the first 3.5 months that I've been doing my thing. So once again, Sports Illustrated's Irish Breakdown at SD2 Mics and the Lucky Lefty podcast. with Malik Zaire on the Lucky Lefty Podcast Network on YouTube.
Yes, sir, man. Y'all get in tune with him, man. It's always good to talk to you, G.